right now, from coast to coast, across presidential battlegrounds. It's all coming down to this night and this choice in a history-making, rule-breaking, jaw-dropping campaign.
The American dream and our American democracy are under attack and on the line like never before.
And we will make America great again.
The people are choosing, the world is watching, and anything is possible until the last vote.
We want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world into the Election Predictions Official Election Center. My name is Ryan Guest, here to bring you a prediction of how this historic presidential election matchup would turn out. Following a tumultuous primary cycle in which the presumptive Democratic nominee and sitting President Joe Biden withdrew his candidacy for re-election and endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris for the Democratic nomination. Meanwhile, on the Republican side, former President Donald Trump cruised to the Republican nomination over a large field of GOP candidates, running away with victory in the Iowa caucuses and sweeping the rest of the early states, in spite of numerous indictments and legal complications. All of the twists, all of the turns, the drama, and suspense come down to tonight, where all 50 states will get to have a say in who will lead the country over the next 4 years. It's a heated fight for 270 electoral votes, the magic number needed to win the White House.
Across the nation, in red states and blue states and swing states, voters are delivering their verdict.
We will fight, we will lead, we will speak the truth.
This is the most important election in the history of our country.
It's election night in America 2024. We are watching the final dash to vote across the United States right now. Right now, we're taking a look inside a polling station in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Just one of the many critical battlegrounds we will be keeping a watchful eye on as the night progresses. It's a cold, wet day in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. President Joe Biden is not at the White House right now. He was on the campaign trail in Wisconsin earlier today. Our sources say he is now on his way back to Baltimore, Maryland, where his Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign is headquartered. We're counting down until the first round of poll closings coming up at the top of the hour. So sit back, try to relax, and we'll be back right after the break with our first look at exit polling and analysis of the night ahead. The United States is currently in the midst of an unprecedented streak of competitive elections, where neither the Democratic nor Republican Party has managed to secure a double-digit victory margin in the national popular vote since 1984. But that's not all. A consequential pattern has simultaneously emerged in the all-important race to 270 electoral votes. 40 out of 50 states have repeatedly voted for either the Democratic or Republican nominee in each of the last 4 elections. Polling throughout the cycle has indicated that both of these trends are likely to continue, and the spotlight tonight is on these pivotal battleground states, the ones we at EP Official expect will tip the balance: Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. These 5 states voted for former Republican President Donald Trump in 2016 and then current President Democrat Joe Biden in 2020. All 5, along with North Carolina and Nevada, were decided by less than 3 percentage points 4 years ago. They will hold the power to shape the nation's future once again. Coming into tonight, polling in all 7 of these states has remained within the margin of error. Vice President Kamala Harris holds a slight advantage over Donald Trump in the states of Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, and Michigan, while the former president leads in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. The Republican National Committee has repeatedly suggested that they expect Kamala Harris will run well behind President Joe Biden's 2020 performance in these key states, as she has in national head-to-head popular vote polling since Biden withdrew his candidacy. The Democratic National Committee, on the other hand, is in good spirits tonight. They say they are confident in the vice president's chances. On that note, one of the things we've been asking voters as they exit the polling booths is when did people decide who to vote for? Given the unprecedented nature of the vice president effectively being thrust into the general election at a very late stage, you may have expected more people to say that they decided in the last couple months. But that's not quite the case. Take a look at this. EP officials surveyed 25,000 respondents in battlegrounds across the country, and here are the numbers. Just 11% of voters said that they decided within the last few days or weeks. 28% said that they decided either in October or September, while 60%, a majority of voters, said that they decided before September. We know, based on data over the last few years, that partisanship has become an increasingly determinative factor, with more and more people unconditionally backing candidates of their political party than ever before. And this data speaks volumes in that regard. Next, we also asked voters what they believe to be the most important issue facing the country right now. And no surprise, the economy tops the list as it always does. 49% of voters mentioned economic issues as their quintessential issue, followed by 16% saying healthcare policy and related issues are the primary concern for them. Crime and public safety is third with 15%, followed thereafter by immigration at 11%, and the issue of abortion at 9%. Another thing we wanted to take a look at is exactly what voters were looking for in this election. A continuation of the sitting president Joe Biden's policies, or do they want the next president to be more conservative, or be more liberal? What's interesting here is that those who want the next president to primarily align themselves with the sitting president, or want more liberal policies, they add up to about 46% of the electorate. 49% of the electorate, on the other hand, today say they want more conservative policies. Clearly a divided country. Finally, shifting over to some candidate-specific questions, we wanted to figure out whether voters would have preferred someone else to represent Democrats on the ballot this year. And these are not pretty numbers for Vice President Kamala Harris. Remember, Biden endorsed Harris upon his withdrawal from the primary contest, effectively securing the nomination for the vice president before any votes were counted. And with that in mind, take a look at this. 67% of voters said that yes, they would have liked a different Democratic nominee, while just 21% indicated that they were completely satisfied with Harris at the top of the ticket. Comparatively, voters were also asked if they would have preferred a Republican candidate other than Trump, and here you see a more divided response. While a clear majority, 53% of voters, said that they would have liked to see somebody else represent Republicans on the ticket, 40% said that they were satisfied with Trump as the nominee. These numbers for both candidates seem to suggest that Trump was the preferred candidate of a higher share of voters within his own party than Harris was among Democrats. That being said, taking a look at the two candidates' favorability ratings, they're almost exactly as unpopular within the general electorate as each other. Kamala Harris's favorability rating is running well below Biden's from 4 years ago. The vice president is 14 points underwater, with 43% of respondents holding a favorable opinion of her, compared to 57% unfavorable. Meanwhile, the former president checks in right around where his approval rating was in most trackers when he left office in 2021. 42% favorable, 58% unfavorable. That is a net -16 net favorability rating. Alright, with all of that said, the clock is just a few ticks away now from 7 p.m. here on the East Coast, where we will get our first results from the 2024 presidential race. This election night will be historic no matter who wins. Vice President Kamala Harris is seeking to take office as the first female president of the United States, while Donald Trump seeks to become just the second man in American history to serve non-consecutive terms in the White House. We have arrived at our first major poll closing of the night. Voting is about to end in these 6 states with a total of 60 electoral votes at stake. We're anxiously awaiting the first returns, especially in the battleground state of Georgia, where early clues may give us an indication of where the election could be headed tonight. And we have our first projections of the night. EP official projects that former President Donald Trump is the winner in Indiana. He will carry the Hoosier State's 11 electoral votes. Indiana narrowly voted for Barack Obama in 2008, the only time it's gone Democratic since 1964. Trump is also the projected winner in Kentucky, where he will carry the Commonwealth's 8 electoral votes. The Bluegrass State has voted Republican in 7 straight presidential elections. Finally, we can also project that Vice President Kamala Harris has won in the state of Vermont. 3 electoral votes in Vermont will go to the Democrats, as expected. Now let's take a look at the states that are too close to call right now. The race in Georgia is shaping up to be a nail-biter, as the 2 candidates have been neck and neck in polling here throughout the cycle. With 16 crucial electoral votes up for grabs, Georgia could serve as a major indicator of the night's outcome. Remember, President Joe Biden pulled off a surprising victory in Georgia by just 0.2% in 2020. So we will be paying very close attention to how Harris runs compared to the president here throughout the night. In South Carolina, meanwhile, a historically Republican state, it's too early to call. Trump carried the state by double digits in 2016 and in 2020, but our decision desk believes it is too early to make a projection here as we wait for more votes to come in. As for the state of Virginia, formerly a critical battleground state, it has leaned reliably Democratic since 2008, but it is too close to call at this point. Biden carried the state's 13 electoral votes by 10 points in 2020. The Harris campaign still spent quite a bit of time on the trail in Virginia over the last few weeks, as polling has showed a slightly tighter race here this time around. With that said, let's take a look though at the Electoral College count, the vote, and where it stands right now. Donald Trump has taken a very early lead in the race to 270 with 19, to Vice President Harris's 3. We have called states colored in red for Trump, and the blue states have been called for Harris. States shaded in white are too early or too close to call, while states in a light gray have yet to have their polls close. Precincts have closed in most counties across the state of Florida, hence you see that pattern there, but some polling stations will remain open in the Panhandle until 8 p.m. It is going to be a very long night from here on out. Donald Trump is the projected winner in the state of South Carolina. It was too early to call as polls closed, but our decision desk expects that the state's 9 electoral votes will be added to his tally, increasing his total to 28 on the night. Kamala Harris's lone win in Vermont amounts to 3 electoral votes thus far, but it is still very early, and we have a key race alert coming in right now. We're coming up on another round of critical poll closings here at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's when polls will close in the battlegrounds of North Carolina and Ohio, as well as West Virginia. Together, these states account for 38 of the 270 electoral votes needed to win the White House. Let's start with an EP official projection in West Virginia. Donald Trump, no surprise, is projected to carry the state and its 4 electoral votes after it lost an electoral vote following the census. West Virginia voted Republican by a larger combined margin than any other state between 2016 and 2020, and Trump appears well on his way to another dominant performance for the GOP. It's too early to call in North Carolina. 16 electoral votes at stake. It gained 1 in reapportionment. North Carolina, a key battleground tonight. This is a must-win for the Trump campaign. It last voted Democratic for Barack Obama in 2008. As for the state of Ohio, another must-win for the Republicans. Once a critical swing state, now Republican-leaning, no GOP presidential candidate has been elected to the White House without winning Ohio. 17 electoral votes. It's too early to call in the state of Ohio. Let's take a look again, though, at the Electoral College map now. 5 electoral votes from West Virginia raised Trump's total to 32, while Kamala Harris remains at 3 with her only victory so far in Vermont. Virginia and Georgia remain too close to call, and they are now joined by Ohio and North Carolina. Precincts are about to close in 16 states, including 5 battlegrounds and the District of Columbia, Pennsylvania, Florida, New Hampshire. It's the biggest round of poll closings tonight. 172 electoral votes are at stake at this hour, and we've got a lot of projections to make right now. Starting with former President Donald Trump in Alabama, 9 electoral votes we project will go to Trump from Alabama. Then in Mississippi, Trump is the projected winner here. He wins 6 electoral votes in another reliably Republican southern state. The state of Missouri, 10 electoral votes, will be added to the Trump column as Missouri votes Republican for their 7th straight presidential election. In Oklahoma, we project that Trump is the winner again in Oklahoma. 7 electoral votes go to the former president here. And lastly, Trump has also won the state of Tennessee. No surprises in any of these races, the former president will carry the volunteer state's 11 electoral votes. As for Vice President Kamala Harris, she wins in Connecticut, 7 electoral votes in Connecticut, which goes blue for the 8th consecutive presidential election. Harris is also the projected winner in Joe Biden's home state of Delaware. 3 electoral votes go to Harris from the home state of the president. Delaware goes Democrat. In the District of Columbia, another 3 electoral votes will go to the vice president. No surprise there out of Washington, D.C. Let's move on to Illinois. 19 electoral votes will go to Harris in Illinois, which lost a vote following the census. The vice president, though, is the projected winner in Illinois. 19 electoral votes go to her camp from there. The vice president is also the projected winner in the state of Maryland. Her campaign headquarters are located in Baltimore, and 10 more electoral votes will go into her camp from Maryland. In Massachusetts, another 11 electoral votes we project will go to Harris from this reliably Democratic northeastern state. No surprise once again. Down south in New Jersey, 14 electoral votes are at stake. Harris is the projected winner in New Jersey. It will go to Kamala Harris. Finally, in Rhode Island, 4 electoral votes are at stake here. We project Harris will carry them easily. Still in the Northeast, it is too early to call in Maine, however. With 4 electoral votes, it's the most northeastern state in the country. Since 1972, Maine has been one of 2 states to split its electoral votes, awarding 2 to the winner of the presidential contest statewide and 1 for the winner of each of its 2 congressional districts. Its neighbor to the west, New Hampshire, also has 4 electoral votes. Historically the most competitive state in New England, it has not voted Republican since 2004. Trump did come within 3,000 votes of defeating Hillary Clinton in 2016 here, but Biden carried it by 60,000 votes in 2020. Finally, the Keystone State, both in name and practice. Pennsylvania was the tipping point state, pushing Biden over 270 electoral votes 4 years ago. It's too early to call right now, but Pennsylvania's 19 electoral votes are absolutely critical. 19 electoral votes are at play in Pennsylvania. It's going to be a long night here as votes trickle in across the state. It may even be the only state that both candidates can agree they must win. But after all of those projections, let's take a look at the updated electoral map. The 2 candidates are neck and neck. After that wave of results, former President Donald Trump holds 75 electoral votes to Vice President Kamala Harris's 74. 10 states have been called for the Republican thus far, compared to 9 for the Democrat, with 8 states too close to call at this hour. Polling stations, meanwhile, have closed in large parts of Texas and Michigan. 2 races to keep an eye on here as early results start trickling in from these 2 important battlegrounds. Many precincts, however, will not close in either of these states until 9 p.m. though, as is the case in Nebraska and the Dakotas. We've got a key race alert coming in right now, though. It's official now. Election Predictions Official can project that Florida goes to former President Donald Trump. He will carry this once critical swing state's 30 electoral votes. Florida has been trending consistently right over the last decade, and Trump looks set to carry the Sunshine State by the largest margin for a Republican in decades. With 81% of the estimated vote in, the former president leads Vice President Kamala Harris by over 700,000 votes. Trump holds 52.8% of the vote right now, to Harris's 45.3%. It's a margin of 7.5 points, more than double his margin in the 2020 election. Remember, Ron DeSantis won Florida's gubernatorial contest by nearly 20% just 2 years ago, and the governor's campaign efforts on behalf of Trump in the late stages have certainly helped Republicans here as the former president looks set to carry Florida by the largest margin of any candidate on either side since 1988. So, Trump will carry Florida's 30 electoral votes, providing a major boost to his electoral count in the all-important race to 270 electoral votes. The former president has extended his early lead over Vice President Harris, 105 to 74. We are keeping a close eye on the states of Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, as well as a host of other states that remain too close to call at this hour. It's 8:30 p.m. on the East Coast, and polls are closing in just the central state of Arkansas. And we've got an EPO projection coming in right now. Former President Donald Trump is the projected winner in the state of Arkansas. He will carry its 6 electoral votes. The state has voted Republican in every election since Bill Clinton carried his home state in 1992 and then 1996. But with that victory in Arkansas, Donald Trump's electoral vote count increases to 111. Harris remains at 74. Voting is about to end in 14 states as the second biggest wave of results are coming up here at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. 156 electoral votes are up for grabs at this hour, and we're watching 6 key battleground states from Arizona in the West to Michigan and Wisconsin in the Midwest. Alright, starting in the state of Kansas, former President Donald Trump is the projected winner. He will carry 6 electoral votes from the Sunflower State. The former president, we project, will also win the state of Louisiana. 8 electoral votes, Louisiana goes to Trump. Trump is also the projected winner in Nebraska, where he will carry 4 of 5 electoral votes. Remember, Nebraska splits its electoral votes, much like Maine, and the 2nd district in Nebraska is too close to call. Remember, President Joe Biden carried that district, and it's 1 electoral vote in the 2020 race. As for the state of North Dakota, we project that Trump will carry its 3 electoral votes, and we can also project that he will carry its neighboring 3 electoral votes in South Dakota. North and South Dakota both go to the former president. He will also get another 3 electoral votes as well in Wyoming. Donald Trump is the projected winner in the state of Wyoming. Now we can also make a couple of projections for Kamala Harris. She is the projected winner in New York, the deep blue Empire State, and its 28 electoral votes have been called for the vice president. EP official can also project that Kamala Harris will win the state of Colorado. 10 electoral votes, it gained 1 after the census, will go to the vice president. Biden carried Colorado in 2020 by Democrats' largest margin since the 60s, and it's called as polls close here for Kamala Harris in 2024. As for the races that are too early to call, there's a whole bunch of them. The state of Arizona is too early to call, where the rapid growth and diversification of Maricopa County, encompassing the Phoenix metro area, has turned this traditionally Republican-leaning state into a vital swing state. Joe Biden became the first Democrat to carry Arizona since 1996 by a margin of just 10,000 votes, 0.3% over Trump. Only Georgia was closer. As for the state of Iowa, 6 electoral votes in Iowa, the once Midwestern swing state, has trended firmly into the Republican column in recent years, giving Donald Trump 9 and 8-point wins in 2016 and 2020, after Obama carried the state both in 2008 and 2012. Michigan, meanwhile, with its 15 electoral votes, is also too early and too close to call. No Democratic candidate has been elected president without winning Michigan since Jimmy Carter in 1976. It's an absolutely critical state to hold for the Kamala Harris campaign. Likewise, the state of Minnesota is a must-hold for the vice president. 10 electoral votes in Minnesota, it's voted Democratic in 12 consecutive presidential elections, the longest such streak still active today. It shifted 5.5 points to the left and in favor of Democrats in 2020, as Biden carried Minnesota by 7 points just 4 years after Clinton won by less than 1.5%. Moving on, the state of New Mexico is too early to call. 5 electoral votes in New Mexico, it voted blue by 11 points in 2020, as it has in 7 of the last 8 presidential elections. Still, New Mexico is too early to call. The Lone Star State, Texas, and its 40 electoral votes, 2 more than it had in 2020, is also too early to call at this hour. Biden received the highest share of the vote for a Democrat in Texas in 2020 since 1976, but Trump still managed to receive 52% of the vote, roughly the same share he carried Texas with in 2016. We will be keeping a close eye on turnout in major metro areas. I'm talking Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, and Austin, as well as the margins for Harris in the Rio Grande Valley, where Republicans have made significant inroads over the last several years. Finally, Wisconsin, it's too early to call in this incredibly important state. 10 electoral votes in Wisconsin, it's the only state that's been decided by less than a point in consecutive elections, as Donald Trump won by 0.8% in 2016, and then Biden flipped the state by 0.6% in 2020. Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, comprising the contemporary Rust Belt swing state trio, are tied together for the longest active streak of voting for the winning presidential candidate nationwide. Alright, let's take a look at the updated electoral map. The Republican, Donald Trump, maintains his lead with 138 electoral votes to his name. Democrat Kamala Harris has 112. Remember, 270 votes are needed to win the presidency. Voters are still making their way to the ballot boxes in just 9 Western states now, one of which being the vice president's home state of California, with a colossal 54 electoral votes to its name. 15 other states are still too close to call, with Trump on the verge of taking what could very well be permanent leads in Texas, Ohio, and North Carolina. Take a look at this. EP official can project that the state of Ohio will go in the Trump column when all of the votes are counted. 17 electoral votes go to the former president from Ohio. It's a hugely valuable state for Republicans, not so much for Democrats. As was the case in 2020, the early vote came in favor of Harris, but it was ultimately nothing more than a waiting game until Trump pulled ahead as the election day vote trickled in. Once considered the swing state in presidential elections, Ohio appears to be trending toward another large Republican margin, as the former president looks likely to win by more than 8% for a third consecutive election. This was, of course, an expected victory for the Trump camp, but a necessary one nonetheless. On a similar note, EP official can make an initial projection in Maine, where Kamala Harris will carry 3 of the state's 4 electoral votes. She is projected to win Maine's statewide contest, as well as the reliably Democratic 1st District. The 2nd District, which went for Trump both in 2016 and 2020, is still too close to call at this hour. So, 3 electoral votes are added to the vice president's tally from Maine. She holds 115 electoral votes now. Meanwhile, for Donald Trump, he maintains his advantage, however, with 17 more electoral votes added to his tally from Ohio. He has 155 now. EP official can now make a projection in Virginia. Vice President Kamala Harris will carry the Commonwealth's 13 electoral votes. Coming into tonight, the Trump campaign had all but written off their chances here in Virginia. Biden won by a double-digit margin of victory in this once Republican-leaning state in 2020, and late-stage polling showed Harris with a comfortable advantage. 13 electoral votes will be added to the vice president's column from Virginia. I'm getting word now that we can also make a projection in Iowa. The former president, Donald Trump, is expected to carry the state of Iowa. 6 electoral votes will be added to his column. Iowa has followed a similar trajectory to its fellow Republican-leading Midwestern state, Ohio, having both voted for Obama twice in 2008 and 2012, and then for Trump by larger than expected margins in 2016 and 2020. Let's see where the Electoral College map stands as a result of those 2 projections. With that win in Iowa, Donald Trump has 161 electoral votes, while Kamala Harris has 128 electoral votes with her win in Virginia. It is a race to 270. You are elected president if you reach that number. Donald Trump has 161 and Kamala Harris 128. We're moments away now from another round of poll closings. Voting is about to end statewide in 4 states, as well as in some counties in Oregon and Idaho at 10 p.m. here on the East Coast, including the absolutely crucial battleground of Nevada. A total of 21 electoral votes are on the line right now. EP official projects that former President Donald Trump will carry the state of Montana. With its 4 electoral votes, Montana gained a congressional district following the 2020 census and will award 4 electoral votes to the Trump camp. Montana goes to the former president. The state of Nevada is the race we are looking at most closely here. 6 electoral votes are at stake, and it's too close to call in this critical battleground that Democrats carried by less than 3 percentage points in 2016 and 2020. We are not expecting votes to come in very quickly here. They'll come in from the Silver State in a little while. As for the state of Utah, perhaps the most unique race in this election, independent candidate Evan McMullin, who received over 20% of the vote in Utah in the state's 2016 presidential election, mounted a last-minute write-in campaign here in what he called a plea to the people of Utah not to back the former President Trump for another term. Trump's 18-point margin in 2016 was the closest a Republican came to losing the state of Utah since 1964. But polling has shown the former president with a comfortable advantage in 3-way race polls. Nevertheless, as is the nature of write-in campaigns, our decision desk will wait for votes to come in before calling the state. And with that projection in Montana, let's take a look at the Electoral College vote count and that map. Former President Donald Trump has marginally increased his electoral vote count. He now leads Vice President Kamala Harris 165 to 128. This race is shaping up to end just about as expected, coming down to narrow margins in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, as well as Nevada, Arizona, and Georgia. Alright, EP official now projects that Donald Trump will carry the state of North Carolina, a big battleground state, another important win for the Republican, as he will carry the Tar Heel state and its 16 electoral votes. This was an absolute must-win for the Trump campaign and his path to 270 electoral votes. And you can see here with 94% of the vote reporting, he leads Vice President Kamala Harris by nearly 4% of the vote. It's a raw vote margin of about 215,000 votes right now. North Carolina goes red at the presidential level for the 4th consecutive election. Republican margins had previously ranged from 1.5 to 2.5 points in the last 3 elections in the state. But with more than 5 million votes counted in this perennially competitive state, Trump continues to beat expectations, and 16 electoral votes will be added to the former president's growing tally. EP official can also project, however, that Kamala Harris will win in New Mexico. Vice President Harris will carry the state and its 5 electoral votes. Harris is the winner in New Mexico, as it remains in the Democratic column for the 5th consecutive election. Another 2 projections have been made there as we take another look at the Electoral College map. But as we discussed at the start of this broadcast, the 2 candidates' paths to 270 were largely independent of each other outside of the 6 key battlegrounds, and North Carolina and New Mexico were prime examples of those distinctions. And EP Official has another projection to make. It's a big one. Texas, 40 electoral votes will go to Donald Trump. He's the projected winner in Texas. The Lone Star State, along with Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, and Iowa, represented the former president's Republican wall coming into this election. He needed to win all of them. Any crack would have likely proven fatal for his path to 270, but he's getting the job done in all of them. Take a look here at the results as once again, in spite of Democratic turnout bombs in large metro areas, Republicans continue to make inroads with Hispanic voters in the Rio Grande Valley. 92% of the estimated vote is in Texas, and Trump holds 51.6% to Vice President Harris's 46.3%. 11.5 million votes have been counted. Texas, of course, provides a major bump to Trump's electoral count with its 40 electoral votes, as the former president eclipses 200 and inches closer and closer to 270, with 221 votes to his name now. Vice President Harris trails behind with 133. Polling stations are about to close in 4 states out west, including key Democratic strongholds down the Pacific Coast in Washington, Oregon, and California. There are 78 electoral votes at stake coming up here at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific time. Let's take a look. The biggest prize of them all, California, with its 54 electoral votes, will go to Vice President Kamala Harris. The most populous state in the country, California lost an electoral vote for the first time in decades, but it still provides a major boost to Harris and her campaign, specifically her electoral count. And now moving up the coastline to Oregon, we can call the state for the vice president. 8 electoral votes will be added to Harris's column as Oregon votes blue for the 10th consecutive presidential election. Washington State, 12 electoral votes. Kamala Harris is also the projected winner in the state of Washington, as Democrats have swept the Pacific continental coast in every election now since 1988. As for Donald Trump, we can call Idaho for the former president. 4 electoral votes will be added to his count from the Great Potato State. Idaho goes to Donald Trump. And let's take an updated look at what all of this means for the race to 270. Take a look at this. The race is narrowing. Kamala Harris has eclipsed 200 electoral votes, skyrocketing all the way up to 207, although she still does trail Donald Trump, who rises to 215 votes with a win in Idaho. This is certainly shaping up to be the incredibly close contest we expected it to be, and the polls have now closed everywhere except for Hawaii and Alaska. We anticipate making a number of major projections in the next hour or two from many of those key races still out there, colored in white. Take a look at this. EP Official projects that in New Hampshire, Kamala Harris will win the state. She holds this purple in a blue stack state in New England. carrying New Hampshire's 4 electoral votes. New Hampshire has long been the only swing state in New England, but Democrats have now won the Granite State for a 6th consecutive election. With 79% of the estimated vote share in, Harris appears to be holding on to a good chunk of Biden's support from 2020. She leads Trump by 4.5% and just under 30,000 votes. Biden carried New Hampshire by 7.5% in 2020, so Harris is certainly running behind the president here, but there are still plenty of votes to be counted. Trump has flipped Carroll and Rockingham counties, but nevertheless, it won't be enough as Harris gets the 4 electoral votes in New Hampshire. Meanwhile, EP official can now finally project that Donald Trump has won Maine's 2nd congressional district. Just 1 electoral vote will be added to the former president's count on the night from Maine. This is the 3rd consecutive election in which Maine has split its electoral vote delegation between candidates, awarding 3 to the Democrats and 1 to the Republicans. And with those calls, we can take an updated look at the race to 270. Once again, Donald Trump maintains his lead over the vice president, 226 electoral votes to 211. All eyes can now be focused on the battleground states of Nevada and Arizona in the Southwest, as well as the traditional blue wall of Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, and then of course, Georgia in the South. As things currently stand, of the states with a significant chunk of the vote in, the former president Donald Trump leads in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia, while Harris only leads in Arizona. If those results do hold, the Republican would be elected president with a minimum of 286 electoral votes. Alright, Donald Trump, we project, will be the winner in the state of Utah. With its 6 electoral votes, the former president wins another state. Evan McMullen, the independent candidate, made another strong challenge as he did in 2016, but it won't be enough as the state of Utah extends its Republican streak to 15 consecutive elections. And with that projection, Trump's total electoral vote count rises to 232. He extends his lead over the vice president, who remains at 211. Just 7 states remain too close to call now as we approach midnight here on the East Coast. The states of Alaska and Hawaii, meanwhile, are about to close most of their polling stations as we await more results in these key races here. We're getting closer and closer to yet another poll closing, the penultimate poll closing, in fact, here at midnight on the East Coast. Voting will end in the state of Hawaii, and we have a projection coming in right now. And as expected, EP official projects that Vice President Kamala Harris is the winner of the presidential contest in the Aloha State. Hawaii and its 4 electoral votes go blue for the 10th consecutive election cycle. The state of Hawaii raises Harris's electoral vote tally to 216 votes on the night. She now trails former President Donald Trump by just 16 in the all-important race to 270. It's 232 to 216, with Alaska now the lone state yet to have its polls closed statewide. Alright, take a look at this. Kamala Harris has held the state of Minnesota. EP official projects the Democratic vice president will carry the state's 10 electoral votes. It had been trending Republican between the Obama and Trump eras. The former president came within 1.5 points of Clinton in 2016, but President Biden managed to secure Minnesota by 7% in 2020, re-solidifying its status as a Democratic-leaning state. With 75% of the vote reporting, Harris leads Trump by more than 140,000 votes in Minnesota. It's a 5.5-point margin as the state votes Democratic for the 13th consecutive presidential election. Trump has made a few inroads since 2020, flipping Winona County on the Wisconsin border. But overall, Republican efforts have fallen short once again in Minnesota. That being said, we can now make a projection in Nebraska's 2nd congressional district. EP official projects our first flip of the night as its lone electoral vote goes to Donald Trump. One of the most reliably Republican states in the country, Nebraska, like Maine, has split awarding some of their electoral votes by congressional district since 1992. Barack Obama became the first Democrat to carry the Omaha-based 2nd congressional district in 2008, before it returned to the Republican column in 2012 and 2016. Biden then flipped the district in 2020, winning by 6.5 points. On this night, however, it returns to the Republican column here in 2024, as following the 2020 census, the district's lines became more favorable for the Republican Party. However, with the vice president's victory in Minnesota, the electoral count has gotten closer than it has all night. Trump still leads with 233 electoral votes, but Harris is not far behind at all now with 225. As we've discussed, the night has gone almost exactly as expected, with one of Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin guaranteed at this point to be named the tipping point state when all is said and done. It's that time now. Our final poll closing of the night is upon us. It's 1 a.m. here on the East Coast, and the polls are closing statewide in Alaska, where we have a key race alert coming in right now. It's too early to call in Alaska, as we don't anticipate getting a drop of votes for another 30 minutes or so. Alaska has been a reliably Republican state since it was admitted into the Union in 1959, although Donald Trump's 10-point victory in 2020 was the lowest margin for a Republican since 1968. This is a big one. EP official projects that Donald Trump is the winner in Georgia. 16 more absolutely pivotal electoral votes go into the former president's column from the southern battleground. Trump had led all night, while much like 2020, Harris slowly chipped away at his lead. as heavily Democratic vote dumps from the Atlanta metro area came trickling in. But our decision desk is now certain Trump's lead will hold. This was a state heavily contested by both campaigns, but especially Trump, who spent more time and resources than any other state here in Georgia, seeing it as a must flip in his path back to a 270 electoral vote coalition. He holds 49.4% of the vote to Harris's 48.2%, as the vice president continues to underperform Biden's margins in key races across the country. And with that victory in Georgia, Donald Trump has increased his lead and inched even closer to 270 electoral votes. He has 249 now to the vice president Kamala Harris's 226. Just 6 states remain too close to call now, or in Alaska's case, too early to call. We are now getting word that we can make a projection in Wisconsin. EP official can call the state of Wisconsin for Donald Trump. He will carry the state's 10 electoral votes. This is a massive victory for his campaign and Republicans as they flip Wisconsin and win the state for the second time in 3 presidential elections. Donald Trump's lead stands at 1.5%. It's a margin of 47,000 votes, with 94% of the estimated vote share in. Our decision desk is confident that there are not enough Democratic-leaning ballots outstanding to flip this race to favor Harris, though it is possible that this margin narrows as more votes are counted. Regardless, again, this is a huge victory for the Trump campaign, as they appear likely to win by an even larger margin than Trump did here in 2016. Wisconsin, along with Pennsylvania and Georgia, was one of the Trump campaign's primary targets, where demographic shifts have made the Badger state more and more favorable for the Republican Party. For the Democrats, this is the first crack in their blue wall, and it might not be the last, as Democrats are running out of ballots in Pennsylvania to make up the former president's lead in the Keystone State. A win in Pennsylvania would secure 270 electoral votes for Trump and Republicans, as would a victory in Arizona, where favorable Republican vote drops have brought the former president within a point of Harris now. Perhaps the only positive sign for the vice president right now is that she appears at least likely to take the lead in Michigan anytime now soon. And if that does happen, it's unlikely she will give it back up, with more absentee ballots being counted later on. Here we go. The first domino has fallen in favor of Democrats now, as EP official can project that Kamala Harris has won the state of Michigan. 15 electoral votes go to Harris from Michigan, a significant victory for her campaign, as a loss in Michigan could have proven to be the final blow to what has already been a disappointing night for the vice president. With 94% of the vote reporting, Harris leads by just below 50,000 votes and a margin of 0.9%. Trump has cut well into the near 3-point margin President Biden won with here in 2020, but it is not enough to flip the state of Michigan, which has recently shown itself to be the bluest of the notorious Rust Belt trio, including Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. The question now is whether late arriving absentee ballots out of Philadelphia favor Harris enough to push her over the top in Pennsylvania, where she trails the former president by around 120,000 votes right now. That said, even if that is the case, her lead in Arizona has almost completely vanished, and those 11 electoral votes from Arizona would be enough to give Trump exactly 270 electoral votes, even without the state of Alaska. Here it is, after countless hours of tense vote counting in races from the presidential level all the way down to municipal elections across the entire country, we have reached the moment where we can now project that former President Donald Trump has been elected the 47th President of the United States and will become just the second U.S. President to serve a non-consecutive term in the White House. Vice President Kamala Harris's tireless efforts to coalesce the Democratic Party around her campaign in the late stage after President Joe Biden's withdrawal have fallen just short. We can make this projection because EP Official projects that Donald Trump will carry Pennsylvania, carrying the Keystone State's 19 electoral votes, the tipping point state in 2016, and what would have been the tipping point state had Trump won in 2020. Pennsylvania has proven itself decisive yet again, as with 97% of the estimated vote in, Trump leads Harris by exactly 1 percentage point. A margin of 70,000 votes separates the two candidates. Every county, every precinct, and every vote mattered in determining the outcome of this historic election, as Pennsylvania delivered another finish for the history books. This projection raises Trump above 270 electoral votes. He has 278 to Harris's 240. Trump has flipped the states of Georgia, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, with the races in Alaska, Arizona, and Nevada too close to call. Donald Trump has been declared the winner in the state of Arizona. Overnight here, EP Official projects that the president-elect will carry this crucial Sunbelt state's 11 electoral votes, adding to his winning tally. He leads Vice President Kamala Harris by just 15,000 votes right now. It's a margin of less than half a percentage point, with 99% of the estimated vote in. President Biden won Arizona by 10,500 votes and a margin of 0.3% in 2020. But Arizona has reversed back into the red column, voting Republican for the 17th time in the last 19 presidential elections. With this win, Donald Trump adds 11 more electoral votes to his total, bringing him currently to 289. Nevada and Alaska are the only states left, and both races are deemed too close to call right now as we await more votes in these notoriously slow-counting states. Just under 20,000 votes separate the two candidates in Nevada. Vice President leads there, while Trump maintains his advantage in Alaska. Just over half of the vote is in there, and Trump leads by 26,000 votes. We can finally make a call now in Nevada, where EP official projects that Vice President Kamala Harris will carry the state's 6 electoral votes. On a night to forget for the party, Democrats hold on in Nevada. With 98% reporting, Harris leads Trump with 48.9% to 48.2%. It's a margin of just 0.7%, significantly smaller than Democrats' 2.4-point victories in the Silver State both in 2016 and 2020. Nevertheless, Harris maintains a 10,000 vote edge and will pull out the victory here despite Republicans' rapidly accelerating efforts to flip Nevada in recent years. EP official is also ready to make its final projection of the 2024 race. As expected, Trump will win in Alaska. It's official now, 3 electoral votes will be added to the president-elect's final tally. And as we take a look at the final electoral map now. That does it though for this 2024 election night prediction. I really hope you guys enjoyed, as I've put weeks worth of effort into it. Feel free to disagree or leave any comments, questions, or concerns down below. I appreciate feedback regardless of whether it is positive or negative. Please make sure to like the video down below though if you did, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and share the video with friends who you think would enjoy it. I am always immeasurably thankful for your support, and I hope to see you guys more as we get closer and closer to primary season. Till then, EP out.